Oh, what is God like? That's what I want to discuss for just a couple of minutes, not very long. You know, if someone saw you in action, if somebody saw you um, working and talking and relating to other people, if they saw how you repay debts, keep your word, make promises, live in community with other people, what would they say about you? Well, that's the kind of question we want to ask about God. When you read the God story, the God book, the Bible, what are some of the observations you make about him? Now, I know what a lot of people say about him. I hear people talk about God being rough and tough and mean, and how, in the Old Testament he was brutal. Well, I'd like for you to discover this for yourself. So as you are studying the stories, especially Abraham and the story of Moses and the lesser, the smaller, day-to-day stories of the Bible, I'd like for you to be asking this question: what is God like? Now there's a second question that I think is pretty important, and that is, what is God up to? And the third one, where do I fit in? So these are three questions that I like to sort of carry along with me as I study the Bible. And let me just give you a little head start on some of this. I think it's amazing that God enters into covenants with human beings. You know, if you read Greek mythology or mythology in general, gods are generally iron-fisted. They duke it out. The powerful ones get their way. And it's pretty amazing that the God of the Hebrews, I believe to be the one true God, but God enters into covenants with people. As we say in one of the videos, he restrains himself. He gives man a chance. And maybe you wouldn't say it's what he's like, but what he thinks. He seems to think that humanity can behave itself with a little help, and that we can be responsible for holding up our end of the deal, generally. Now, of course, people fail. We do sin, we know that. But there's this aspect of God that he believes in us. Let us make man in our image. He communicates with us. He uses language. What is God like? Well, I find that he has a long fuse. That God is very patient. He's not quick to snuff people out. Sometimes people think that, but you read there in the Old Testament and you're going to see that there was one evil king after another, and God didn't smash him. He didn't just pinch him like he could have done. What is God like? Generous, like a father. So many times he's like a father. And what's he up to? I think that's a pretty important question. What is God's dream? What is God's plan? And a hint for this is given in the 12th chapter of the book of Genesis, where God says to Abraham, one day I'm going to bless all of the ethnics through your descendants. What is God up to? You know, the Hebrew people sort of had the idea that God was their God. They were the apple of his eye. Everything revolved around them. What they didn't seem to realize was that God had a plan for one man, Abraham, and then he had a plan for the nation, and he was going to deliver to that nation the Messiah. But there would be no golden age for Israel until there was a golden age for the whole world. The Messiah was not just to be their Messiah, but he would be the Messiah. He would be the Redeemer of all humanity. Now you're going to see it as we read in the prophets and we see Jeremiah. I'll give you an example. Jeremiah 31:31. That's where God says through Jeremiah, the day's coming when I will make a covenant, not like the one I made when I brought you out of Egypt, but this is going to be a new covenant. And that new covenant would be described by Jesus in the New Testament. So there we go. My phone's ringing. And I'm hoping that you will see, as we study together, that God has a character that can be seen, he has a purpose that can be understood, and you fit into his plan.